Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, thanks for joining me. Today is an upgrade day! So let's get cracking, shall we? The featured artist this month is called Fox_M.B, and you can find them on Instagram, and it is a gorgeous illustration. Now let's have a look at the loot, shall we? Now, the first thing I'm noticing with these supplies is we have Van Gogh paint, or Van Gogh, or Van Gogh, or however you pronounce him. I'm going to call it Van Gogh. And the featured colours are Naples Yellow Red, Pyrrole Orange, Madder Lake Red, I think, Lavender, Azo Yellow Light, and Turquoise Green. Nice, interesting selection of colours. We also have included the Milan Refillable Water Brush, a Milan Premium Synthetic Round Brush Series 611 in size 0, and Co-I-Know Polycolour coloured pencils, and those are in 3 colours. So let's get swatching them. Now, it's quite interesting actually, I got them this month because I very nearly bought some of these paints, and I'm just glad I held back because obviously I would have far too many of them now, and I quite like the selection of colours I've got. It means they'll go pretty well with existing tubes and pans I already have, so I wasn't after anything specific, but a bunch of colours that work well together work brilliantly in my eyes. Now, the coloured pencils, the only one that's actually labelled with a colour name on it is the Cobalt Dark, and that's it. The others just got numbers, so I'm not sure what went on there, but that's what we've got. We've got something that I'd describe as being a yellow ochre and a potter's pink, but I could be completely wrong. That's just a little guesstimate of mine. The watercolour paper we've got is also by Van Gogh, and it is 100% cellulose, lignin free, it's 300 GSM, and it's got a slight texture to it, which is not normally what I'd go for, but I'm not adverse to it if I be honest. It seems to accept the coloured pencils quite nicely, and just to let you know, these are not water soluble coloured pencils, so no watercolour effects there. It's quite interesting, the water brush is, it has push buttons either side of it, which I've not experienced before with water brushes. You kind of just squeeze the barrel and out comes the water, but this seems to imply you get a little bit more control. It holds 8ml of ink, and well, it's good for pencils, tablets and ink. Lovely. It's a 4mm brush as well. Now, I don't use water brushes very often. I'll use them perhaps when I'm on the go, but my personal experience is I still have to dip them in water to clean the brush, and I also tend to find that some of the colour gets drawn back into the barrel. I don't know if any of you guys have noticed that with water brushes, so when I do use them it has to be quite a limited palette, but you know, I like a challenge. I did find when using it though that not very much of the colour was sort of sucked back into the barrel, which is good. I still cleaned it in water though, so maybe that'll be why. The little teeny tiny brush that came with it was actually quite nice. I don't normally use detailing brushes that are short, if that makes any sense. If I'm going in for the detail, I'd prefer to use a rigger brush, because for some reason when it comes to doing details with the brush I get shaky hand. Don't know what that's all about. Always had it though, and using a teeny tiny brush kinda doesn't cancel the shakes out, whereas my personal preference is a rigger. The paint swatched out really nicely, and I just did a little experimentation blending one colour with the other, just the two massively different ones, and I was quite happy with how they blended. I've also squeezed some of these into some empty pans, and I'll probably add them to a little palette I'm building up. We also got some of the pens that were featured last month, and I did ask them to send me some replacements, so I can only assume that these are the replacements. Hey ho, don't mind getting some more anyway. So let's get cracking with the prompt, shall we? So the prompt this month is love of animals. and well, I love animals, and there's a lot of animals to choose from, so I decided to do a bit of a draw this in your style based on the featured artist this month. I really liked the design this month by Fox MB, and I wanted to do my own spin on it, so I did this a little bit more casual. She's just sort of gazing off, and the fox is quite happily just placing his head upon her head. Considering we've got a lot of similar colours and two very different colours to the palette, I wanted to have a play about with adding the tonal details first, so I went straight in there with the turquoise green, and I was just wondering how it would layer up more than anything. I also used the lavender to add some of the shadows for her hair, and I do keep working back into that. I must admit though, I was pretty impressed. The details underneath did work quite nicely coming through, and that surprised me. I'm not sure what level the Van Gogh paints are, whether they're artist or whether they're student grade. I did have some in a scroller box quite a few years ago, and I was impressed with them, and I can't say I've got any problems. I was also considering buying some, so that, I guess, take that what you will from it, but I wasn't sure with having so many of them how they'd all interact with each other, and I was pleased to say they layered beautifully. I was so impressed with them, and they're a little bit on the paler side, but maybe that is just because I was working quite loosely here. I do kind of go heavy on colour sometimes, and for this one I wanted to keep it quite delicate, so maybe because I watered it down, and maybe it was because using the water brush I didn't feel like I was quite getting as much of a pigment lay down, or I would, there'd be an initial hit of pigment and then naturally the water brush would move it all around the paper, so to speak. I've got mixed feelings about using the turquoise green for the shading on her face though. I think maybe it's a little bit too cold compared to the rest of it, and that's okay. That's just me learning as we go along. We're all artists here and we all learn with every single piece we do, whether it's a good one or if it's a disaster. It's not the end of the world, but I don't think it's like a catastrophe, and adding some warmer colours around it and adding the coloured pencil details, that kind of brings it back in the room, so to speak. I also forgot to mention at the start of the piece, for the background, I just wanted to see how it would interact with salt, and I think it was quite a light colour lay down, but there is a bit of texture there which surprised me because of how lightly and how diluted the colour was, so I was quite impressed with that, and I do actually want to start experimenting, creating different textures with watercolours at the moment, and that's the main reason why I bought an Etch-a-Sketch pad with the watercolour paper in it, so I can have all these experiments and I'm not committing to larger sheets of paper, and I can just be a little bit more free with it. Speaking of paper though, the paper that came with this box, I must admit it's really good. It barely warped at all, and it didn't even peel away from the masking tape whilst I was painting, but when I removed the masking tape, or washi tape I should say, it came off like a dream, and it also accepted the coloured pencils really nicely as well. Obviously you've got that texture there, and that comes through when you use a coloured pencil because obviously it grips onto the tooth of the paper. However, I kind of like that. I don't think that looked bad. In conclusion, I've really enjoyed this box this month. I have to admit, this is possibly my favourite UPCRATE so far, and that's saying a lot because on the majority of UPCRATEs I've had, I've liked them pretty much. There's only been one or two where maybe the medium's not really suited me, or I just didn't produce something I'd be happy with. But this month has been fabulous. I've been so impressed, and I'm quite impressed by how many tubes of paint we've got as well, and the fact we've got other media on top of that. I'm really impressed. I really feel like this month we've got a money's worth, and that's good. That leaves a good feeling, and I'm really happy with what I use them for as well. I really like my piece. I'm really happy with how it came out. I tried different things with the lighting and different things with the shadows, and I even chucked a bit of salt on there because I was feeling, what the heck, why not? I just used the pink pencil just to add a bit more highlight to her hair, and the ochre one to add a bit more detail elsewhere. But all in all, really chuffed with this box. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you had this box yourself, let me know what you thought of it. I'd like to hear that. And I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit like if you enjoyed this, and don't forget to hit subscribe if you're new here and you want to see more. Anyway, until the next video, I'll see you soon. Bye!